The beginning after the end is very, very good. I recently started reading it after seeing, well, some clips of the anime, and I'd heard good things about the webcomic. I'm not reading the novel, I'm specifically reading the comic format of it. So, for context, if you're wondering, that's what I'm reading. And so I decided to pick it up. And well, as I just said, it's really good. TBATE is just fantastic. It's really, really charming, and mainly I think the most important thing to say about the webcomic is it's really engaging. Like, it's really, really engaging. It just pulls you in. I just want to keep reading more of it, and I almost certainly will be reading more of it after this. As for how far I am, about 110-ish chapters in. I'm at the school, the Xaris Magic Academy. For those of you that have read the series and know what that is, those of you that haven't read the series and are using this as maybe an inkling, that will mean absolutely nothing to you as to whether you should read it. But it's really, really solid. If you're a fan of something like Mushoku Tensei, you're almost certainly going to be a fan of TBATE. They're very, very similar, and I think I've read somewhere that TBATE was inspired, at least loosely, by Mushoku Tensei. So, if you like one, you're probably going to like the other. Obviously, they have differences. MT has certain elements that people may or may not like, or can't look past, as if it were, and TBATE doesn't have some of those elements, right? So, take that as you will. But TBATE's really, really good. The art as well. Let's talk about just like the superficial stuff before we get into the story. The art's really cool. The art style's really nice. It's got a really nice art style. The characters look all good. The characters look good, right? It's nice. It's an isekai, right? Obviously, you should have got that from me telling you it's like Mushoku Tensei. But yeah, it looks solid. Looks good. Solid, nice looking webtoon. Yeah, it's good. Now the important stuff. The story. The story's really good. So we follow this king from another world who is, who's died. We don't know how he died. We don't know what caused his death. Right. He just died in his sleep, by the seems of it. And he was a king in this other world. And then when he reincarnates as this boy named Arthur Lewin. Lewin. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it. That's a bit weird. But anyway. And he is the son of these two mages. And he's just a normal kid. Normal. But, he's not royalty, he's not nobility, he's just a normal-ass kid who is the son of these two just normal-ass adventurers, right? He's just a regular guy. And he's born into a world with magic, which is different to the world he is from. However, he is not from our world. This is one of the most interesting, I think, twists on the isekai format. He is being isekai'd not from our world or a world similar to ours. He's being isekai'd from a world that's actually more similar to the world he ends up in. Instead of having magic in his old world, they had, ki, which is another common element that gets brought up in webtoons and such. And so he actually ends up getting quite a head start on this new world's power system because of the similarities it has with his old one. And this is why our main character ends up quite OP very, very early on. There is power fantasy elements to this, of course there is. It's an isekai, there's gonna be. But he ends up very powerful very early on because, well, this world has a very similar power system to one that he's already well versed in. So he ends up getting access to magic way earlier than most other human beings, as it's explained within the webcomic. Most humans awaken to their magical abilities in their early to mid-teens. Arthur awakens to his powers when he's fucking 3. Yeah. He's also obviously got all of his memories from his previous life, so when he starts learning to fight with the sword, which is something he did in his previous world, well, he's already a natural. Although, he's got to get used to his body first, being as, he is 3 fucking years old at this point. His body doesn't move the way it wants him, he wants it to. And it won't for quite a while. And it actually becomes a point about that's actually a relevant point, but, a little bit later on about him, having to get used to his body and specifically focusing on something that he was always good at instead of, just using this world's new powers that he is absolutely gifted in as a crutch. Which is very interesting. I very like that point. But things aren't all sunshine and rainbows for Arthur, as a little bit later on they're, traveling, they go to this big floating city, Xaris, which I mentioned earlier for the academy. Oh, and heading there, tragedy strikes. They're attacked by bandits, and ultimately, at the end of this exchange, Arthur ends up falling off a cliff. As a 3, nearly 4-year-old child. He falls off a cliff. That's the end, yep. TBATE ends there, and there's nothing more. No, obviously it doesn't end there. He is miraculously saved by this mysterious entity, who he then ends up meeting, raises him a little bit, teaches him some secret faff, and gives him some gifts. I won't go into details about what those are, you'll have to find out for yourself. Then, this mysterious entity sends him on his way. In the final moments. There's a little bit of a spoiler for you. So, this mysterious entity sends him away, reuniting him with humans. However, this doesn't even go that well for him, because he ends up immediately witnessing some slave traders trying to kidnap an elf. Because he does not end up in the human kingdom, he ends up near some humans in the elven kingdom who probably shouldn't be there. And, well, he gets involved, he stalks the slave traders, and then kills them all. Saving the little elf that was being kidnapped. Because she is a little bit older than him. This elven girl is a little bit older than him. Even by human years. Although I don't think elves in this world actually are like, several hundreds of years old. But I don't know. I've not had it mentioned, I don't think. So, yeah, there are also dwarves in this universe as well. There are elves, humans, and dwarves as 3 races, and then there are magical beasts, which obviously you'd expect from a fantasy setting. But yes, as I was saying. And well, he then tries to help this little elf get home. And so they do. And they become, friends along the way, which is very cute. It's very wholesome. And then when they get home, it turns out that the little elf girl he saved is the princess of the Elven Kingdom. And things start going a lot better for him from here. But we'll leave that there for me covering the story in a hell of a lot of detail for a little bit. I don't want to spoil too much of it. So there's a little taster for those of you that haven't read it and might be considering it. It's very, very good. Right. If you care about spoilers, we'll talk. I'll give my thoughts on story points a little bit later on. But from all of that, I really like it. But again, from these moments, it really does engage you. It's not just formulaic of OP character. He gets really strong early, and then he goes to school, and he's really strong at school, and then he makes friends who are also conveniently really OP. And right, it's not super generic, mindless isekai. It's actually really, really good. The world is established, the power system's established quite well. There are 4 elements: fire, earth, water, and wind. And you'll find out more about those later on as you read the story more. And well, Arthur himself finds out more about them as well, because obviously he doesn't actually know all the nuances of the magic system. He just has a good feel for it because, well, it's similar to stuff he's already worked with. But yeah, it's really, really solid. It's just got a really, really engaging narrative. It just pulls you in. It flows really nicely. There are certain things I dislike, like there are time skips frequently throughout the webcomic. And there's one not long after reuniting with the Tessia, the elf girl, or Tess, with her family. There's one shortly after that, which is a handful of years, where Arthur does a bunch of training and becomes really, really OP. And I would have liked to have seen a lot of that, because some interesting elements that are brought up that we're told about having happened, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have seen that. That'd have been really cool. But, I mean, I get why time skips happen, because, you've got to move the plot on somehow. You can't just watch these kids be 4 years old forever, right? And then there's another one slightly later on when Arthur becomes an adventurer. And I'm like, oh, I kind of wish we could have seen everything he does in those 2 years as an adventurer, where this is the specific one I was on about earlier, where he's like, I'm going to focus on swordsmanship. And he just supposedly doesn't use magic at all during these 2 years. And I'm like, damn. I really wish we could have seen that. See him, get over the awkwardness of his body not being the way he remembers it or how he's used to it. I really wish we could have seen that. That would have been really, really cool. But again, I get the point of the time skip. Okay. And then just shortly after that, we meet, Arthur's first primary goal. The first obstacle he must overcome. The first individual he will slaughter in not cold blood. Although despite having been told to, live a life not for revenge, well, here we are. He is. But still, I deserved. The revenge is deserved, so I'll give it that. We're also introduced to a whole bunch of other characters throughout this. For example, his parents' adventuring guild, the Twin Horns. They're really cool. We don't get a huge amount with a lot of them. It's mainly just Jasmine who we get, and also who has some side story chapters on her, which are really, really good as well. Again, all the chapter points are really, really engaging. Even the ones for the side characters, like with Jasmine, her side story chapters were really, really engaging. So just all around, everything's really solidly written. The adaptation for the webcomic, is really, really good. I've not read the original novel, so I can't say. I imagine things are probably slightly different over there. You'll have to let me know in the comments. But genuinely, it's really, really good. There's certain things that, again, are a bit strange. Like, for example, Elijah Knight is a character that I have only just brought up now. But I wasn't expecting his character to go the direction it goes in from his first introduction. Like, for those of you who read it and know where we are, at least at the school point, he's very much just like a teenage boy. And it's really quite weird because his initial introduction does not make him seem like he's just going to be like that. But he is. But hey, it's also really charming. It was a surprise, but hey, it's quite fun. It's quite funny. But yeah, it's really, really good. And one thing that this series is playing on is the awkwardness of the mental difference between the physical age of Arthur. Arthur is obviously physically at the point I'm at now, 12. But mentally, he's like 30, right? He's in his 30s. Because that's how old he was before he died. And so, he's trying to... he acts really, really mature most of the time because he is a 30-year-old man in his head. But at the same time, because he's not acting like a child, there's awkwardness that people see. He's also putting up, masks so that he doesn't get too close to anybody around him because, well, he obviously thinks it's fucking weird for a 30-year-old bloke to be getting close with 15-year-old, people who are as old as 13. You know what I mean? He's like, that doesn't seem right. And ultimately, this awkwardness and these masks he put up do end up eventually hurting one of his relationships. And so I'm interested, and that's basically where I'm at now. And I'm really interested to see what they do with that in the comic. I'm really, really interested. I'll probably do a follow-up video on TBATE much later on when I've caught up to it. But right now, all I've got to say is TBATE is genuinely incredible. Give it a read. It's solid stuff. Just give it a read. Give it a good nice read. It's really, really good. But with that out of the way, I've been Aussie. You've been you. Leave a like, comment, sub, notification bell, should be around trying to hit 1,000 stars in the years. If you could do me something, help me do that'd be absolutely fantastic. But with that out of the way, I'll see you next time for another video. But for now.